You ever see somebody so sure of themselves, so absolutely convinced they're untouchable? You just want to see what happens when the universe finally gets tired of their act. Well, let me tell you about the day I watched our HOA president Karen fall hard right into a trap I set with my own two hands. Yeah, you heard me. She walked into it head first, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't savor every second. But before you think I'm some kind of villain, let me back up a sec, because trust me, she earned it. It started on a Tuesday evening 2 weeks back. We're all jammed into the old clubhouse, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and Karen's up front, Her Majesty of the HOA, banging her gavel like she's running some kind of backwoods Supreme Court. The kind of night where you can practically smell the passive aggression in the air. Then out of nowhere, Karen proposes this genius idea. She personally wants to inspect everybody's garages for safety. Not the fire department, not security, her. Just to make sure you know none of us are brewing up a meth lab or hiding doomsday bunkers behind our tool racks. Classic Karen, right? The whole room just goes quiet like she just announced free beer and nobody believed her. You could see folks shifting in their seats, not sure if this was a joke. I raised my hand, tried to keep my voice calm, and asked if this inspection thing was, optional. She looked right at me, flashed that smug little smirk, and goes, "If a homeowner doesn't consent, that's fine." She said it like she was being gracious, like we should thank her for her generosity. I just said flat out, "Well, I don't consent. There's nothing illegal in my garage and nobody's poking around in there." You should have seen the look she gave me, like I'd spat in her morning coffee. A couple folks nodded, but most just kind of wilted and went along. That's when Karen turned to the room and said loud enough for the whole zip code, "If you have nothing to hide, why not let us inspect?" There it was, the classic line. But I wasn't biting. I just shook my head, stared her down. She pursed her lips, gave her gavel a final bang, and called the meeting. But the way she glared at me, I knew she wasn't letting it go. Now here's where it gets real. After that meeting, it felt like Karen was suddenly everywhere. Walking her dog by my driveway, no leash, no dog, just her. Creeping along the edge of my property. Parked across the street in her beat-up SUV, scribbling in a little notepad like she was working for the FBI. Every time I caught her staring, she'd smile at me. This slow, rotten grin like she knew something I didn't. I tried to brush it off, told myself maybe she was just nosy, maybe I was imagining things. But that didn't last long. One Thursday, I come home late, house feels off. Nothing obvious, but the air felt disturbed. My mail's out of order, a chair's moved a couple inches. The garage light's on, and I never leave it on. You know how you just know when someone's been in your space? My gut turned to ice. No broken windows, no forced door, just subtle enough to make me doubt myself, but not enough to call the cops. My first thought, Karen. And when I saw her at the mailbox that night, she just waved, nails chipped, smile sharp as a razor. She knew. That's when I realized she was getting in somehow. I wasn't just paranoid, she was playing with me. Next Thursday, it happened again. Tools in the garage rearranged. I started to see the pattern. She was coming in on Thursdays when I always worked late. This wasn't random. This was chess, and I was done playing defense. So I came up with a plan. If Karen wanted to poke around my house, fine, let her, but on my terms. I called Mrs. Adler, my neighbor 2 houses down. She's 83 sharp as a tack and has a clear shot of my driveway. I asked her to keep an eye-out phone at the ready. The next Thursday, I left early like I was heading to work, but doubled back and slipped into Mrs. Adler's living room, sat behind her blinds with a mug of bitter coffee and a pulse in my throat. Meanwhile, I'd set my little surprise at home. Up above the front door, I rigged a 5-gallon bucket of bright blue paint laced with sour milk vinegar and raw eggs, smelled like a landfill in July. Tied a thin thread across the welcome mat, old-school cartoon trap. The kind of thing you dream up as a kid but never get to use. Until now. I waited. Time crawled by. Mrs. Adler and I barely breathing, glued to the window. 1 in the afternoon, there she was, Karen strutting up the street, eyes darting, glancing at my empty driveway. She marched right up like she owned the place, pulled out a key, and slid it into my lock. My blood boiled. She'd copied my key, probably when I loaned it to the HOA for that plumbing check months ago. She twisted the lock, pushed open the door, and snapped the thread broke. The bucket swung down, flipped, and dumped every drop of that blue sour sludge right over her head. The sound splat splash, a high-pitched shriek echoed down the street. Paint and stink everywhere. Karen staggered back, dripping, gagging, looking like she'd crawled out of a toxic swamp. Neighbors poked their heads out. Phones came out. Pictures snapped. I stepped out of Mrs. Adler's with my own phone, grinning like a fool. "Smile for the camera, Karen," I shouted. Mrs. Adler was in tears, laughing. Karen looked up at me, blue goo dripping down her face, and I swear she tried to say something dignified, but just choked and bolted, leaving a trail of blue footprints all the way to her front door. By sundown, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Blue Cheese Karen, they called her. Every group chat had the video memes flying left and right. If shame was a color, it was definitely that shade of blue. But you know what? Karen didn't slink off quietly. Nope. 3 days later, thick envelope in my mailbox subpoena. She was suing me for assault, emotional distress, property damage. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the letter in the trash. She broke into my house and got slimed, and now I'm the criminal. Court day comes. Rooms packed half the blocks there just to watch the fireworks. Karen shows up in a cream suit, hair still a little bluish at the roots if you looked close, lawyer in tow. She gets up, swears under oath she never broke into my house, never copied my key, acts like she's the victim. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. Then it's my turn. I roll out the footage, Karen in broad daylight, walking up, popping my lock, pushing open the door. And then the pièce de résistance, her getting doused by that glorious blue rain captured in living color from Mrs. Adler's porch. You could hear the air go out of the room. Karen's face went sheet white, well as white as you can get under blue stains. Judge looks at her dead serious. "Mrs. Williams, you have lied under oath. This is perjury. Not only is your claim dismissed, but you are guilty of criminal trespass, harassment, and providing false testimony." Bang gavel comes down like thunder. 60 days in county jail, year on probation, banned from any HOA position, and cherry on top, she owes me 50 grand for damages and legal fees. The crowd just erupted, whispers, laughter, phones buzzing with new memes before the bailiff even finished escorting Karen out. She tried to destroy me, but in the end she set fire to her own empire, all with a bucket of blue sludge and her own arrogance. You want to talk about justice? I'd call that poetic. So let me ask you, did Karen get what she deserved, or did I go too far? Was it justice or just old-fashioned payback? Drop your thoughts below, share your stories. Heck, tell me about your own Karen if you've got one. And if you want more tales like this, hit that like and share with somebody who needs a laugh or a little reminder that sometimes the universe does in fact keep score.